Now I see you've toured with some friends of ours, the Beths, at one point.
Our very, very favorites. I was
Really?
a fan. Yes, I was a fan for, I guess, probably like a couple years before we like reached out to them on Twitter and just told them that we were fans. And then it kind of all came together and we got to open for them and it was amazing.
Cool. I see
Yeah.
they just released a live album like on Friday of them playing
Yes.
just around the corner here at the.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it's pretty cool, and they released a live video or a whole film of the concert, as a matter of fact.
Amazing. Yeah.
Good stuff. So
Yes.
congratulations on your album, Walkman.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Third album. So it came out, what was it, last Friday as well, right?
Yes, we're only a few days in, but feels good.
So what'd you do on the day? Anything exciting?
Yes, we did actually. We did a lot of like social media because that's the thing to do these days.
Yes.
But then there's a record store in Minneapolis called the Electric Fetus, and it's been around forever.
Right.
It's kind of an institution, one of my favorite record stores. And we did a in-store performance. We played 6/10 of the album.
6/10.
And then we signed.
That's very precise.
Yes. But it was great. It was a nice way to celebrate.
And what else did you play besides the 6/10 of the album?
So it was a really short show. We actually were surprised when they told us they usually just do like a half-hour set.
Right.
So we said, oh, okay. So we just played the 6/10 and then we played our song "It Hurts" because that's what we always end with. So I feel a little superstitious if we don't play it.
Fair enough. All righty. So Walkman, give me a little background on where and when it was recorded and under what circumstances, if you can.
Yes. So we recorded, this is the first time we did a recording in like a few chunks. We've normally gone to the studio for one block of recording.
Right.
But this we did a few days in January of 2020. Times, a lot simpler back then. Then
yes.
we did.
If we can remember that far back.
I know. Then we did another week or so in February of 2020. So things were still, And then we had done 8 songs at that point, and then we finished the album in June of 2020. So then we were in the thick of it. Right,
in the thick of it. And for you, what was in the thick of it being like?
Honestly, like it wasn't so bad for us. I think I had a pretty good situation, but we were obviously sad we weren't touring. We were supposed to be touring and playing music, but we had just bought a house in St. Paul like 6 months before the pandemic. So we did a lot of house projects, stayed inside, went on walks, worked on music. So not so bad.
Cool. And would the album have come out earlier if it wasn't for the pandemic?
Actually, it pretty much wasn't. I don't think the timeline was really affected because I think it was all finished. I guess there's a little bit where we weren't sure if we were going to be able to finish those 2 songs, but once those were done, we got it mixed, got it mastered, and then it was pretty much done. The music was done like September a year ago, and then we shopped it around, got a label, and then it was pretty much the usual, album release cycle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's your third album. So when a band usually gets to that point, something happens. They usually kind of continue on where they are or decide to do something different. How did you approach making your third album?
Well, yeah, I guess it is sort of, at this point, I'm starting to be influenced by the experience of the last album.
Right.
So Lightning Round, that album was a different experience for us because we spent a lot of time on it. So we were in the studio for like 5 weeks making Lightning Round. So you can be real nitpicky and real exploratory and kind of just like, let's really think about how we want this piano to sound. Right. And I think that album, because that has sort of this like grandiose sort of feeling to it, it's a little dramatic. All right. And it's great. I do love Lightning Round, and I love those songs because I was also really into like true like top 40 pop music at that time. So it was trying to write kind of like that kind of like pop melodies and stuff. But then when we toured on Lightning Round, and a lot of those songs were actually kind of hard to play live because we had spent so much time in the studio layering and
we gotcha. Yeah.
And so when we are arranging them for the live show, it was pretty difficult. And a lot of stuff was maybe lost from those arrangements. I like the arrangements we come up with. It's just a new arrangement. So going into Walkman, I really wanted to write an album that was well suited to a rock trio.
Right. Fair enough. Something you could play on stage.
Exactly. Something that maybe would be a little easier to play. And actually, we were really inspired by touring with the Beths, just because their live show was so energetic and so fun. And I think that really rubbed off on me. And I wanted to write some more upbeat rockers.
Right. Yep. Okay. And you have a guy named Brett Bullion who produces you, and he's produced all 3 albums, if I'm not mistaken. So what does he do, and what do you guys do when you're in the studio? What's it like between the communication?
Yes. Well, I often say that Brett is the fourth hat in the band. I do feel like his influence is really special to the music. And when I write songs, I like to free my mind from any thoughts of is this too like 90s? Is this too simple? Is this too anything? I just like to get the song down. It's coming to me in a certain way. I want to put it down, make sure I got it down. But I try not to be concerned with anything else besides getting the song down. So then when we get to the studio, that's the time where we can kind of push the song in a direction to be like, okay, maybe we won't use guitars in the song, or maybe we'll change the chords on this one. And so I think my kind of my sensibilities of simple pop songwriting kind of smash against Brett's sensibilities, which is don't do anything the same way twice and experiment. So we battle, but in a good way, because I think he's always pushing us to have more interesting sounds and textures and do something a little off kilter. And I'm always pushing to say, but it has to be catchy and it has to be easy to grab you. So that's the Baba Hats sound.
And what about Chris and Con? How involved are they with those kind of decisions?
They're very involved. So I always write the basic songs. So the lyrics, melody, and the simple guitar part. I write the song that you would play at open mic night. But then I bring it to Chris and Con, and they really help me figure out the arrangement. And obviously they're writing their bass and drum parts. And in the studio, all 4 of us, the 3 of us and Brett, are all making decisions about what do we need here? Do we need a synth here? Should we cut that verse? What should happen here? How should the sections go into each other? So it is very collaborative in that way.
Okay. Now I know the album starts out with the title track Walkman, and I noticed that I was watching the lyric video, and the lyrics themselves are kind of very specific, but also they seem universal. So is that something you think about, and how do you approach your lyric writing? Do you worry about being too personal and too specific, or what?
Heavy metal, rock and roll. It makes sense when you lose control. When I met you, it felt like that. Hard to go, then a heart attack.
Yeah, I guess I probably honestly don't think about it that much, but I do think that now there are a lot of lyricists that are writing very, very personally and literally, and I feel like I don't usually write like that, but I've become very inspired by lyricists like a Phoebe Bridgers or a Rosie Tucker that are kind of writing real you're in the room with them, seeing all the little bits and bobs. It's like a diorama, the way that they write.
Yep.
And I feel like I've always written somewhat more metaphorically and kind of generally. So I think maybe I am somewhat consciously trying to write a little bit more specifically. But I think ultimately the way I write lyrics is I'm always just thinking cinematically. I just I like the way that music and visuals go together, and the way, songs can kind of give context to like a scene in your life and
Gotcha.
how special that connection is. So that's what I'm always thinking about, just walking with your headphones on, like in the rain kind of thing.
And speaking of being cinematic, you have made a video for Detroit basketball. So how involved are you in making of the videos and the concept and all that stuff?
Got a good job in the senior position. Then I threw a party and cried in the kitchen. Stop and started over again. Stop and started over again.
Well, this time very involved. Which was fun because I think in Lightning Round, because it was sort of a more like melancholy maybe album, or more serious. I don't think of myself as a very serious person. So I struggled a little bit to think about the videos and stuff for that album because I don't know how to like do the video thing where you're like, you know, like just whatever, doing whatever you would do.
Staring off into space.
Exactly. Like, yeah. So I felt a little like uncomfortable maybe with that, with like the advertising of Lightning Round, which is something I hadn't thought about when I was like writing the songs.
Sure.
But for Walkman, because it is much more lighthearted and there's a lot more like humor in the songs themselves, it was a perfect breeding ground for sort of my creative energy with the video. So we came up with the concepts for both videos, Detroit and Milky Way.
Right.
And it was super fun to realize those ideas. Yeah.
Now with Milky Way, you got some heavier guitar going on. There's a couple of tracks that have a lot more guitar. So
yes.
Was that a conscious effort on your part, being the guitar player? You wanted to throw out some riffs?
I did want to play a little more. And I think it also speaks to, you know, like in this band, this is my first band. I mean, and I've been in it for almost 10 years now, but I had never like played shows with other people before Bab I had started. So it's always been kind of a learning experience for me. Like I had never used like a guitar pedal before the band started.
Right.
I know. So like in some ways I think I've like gotten to a point where I can play those riffs and like I am able to shred a bit more on my guitar.
Right.
So it was nice to sort of like stretch that muscle, you know?
Yeah. And the song Milky Way, what's kind of behind, is there a story behind that at all?
I sort of made up a story, but I had this vision of like, just sort of being, like being out and maybe like from the perspective of someone who is generally a more like reserved person. I'm not really like a party animal, as you would say.
Yeah.
But I had this sort of idea of being out and just sort of allowing yourself in an instant to sort of like go with the flow of an evening, sort of like meeting a stranger who's intriguing and just sort of being inspired by their spontaneous energy to be spontaneous yourself and sort of trying to take advantage of like some sweet spontaneity in your life.
Sweet spontaneity. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Milky Way. Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. I noticed almost every song is about a 3-minute pop song, except for Priority, which is over 5 minutes long, and it's also kind of slower and darker and dreamier.
Yeah.
So is that why you kind of stuck it in the middle like that, to kind of give it its own place?
When I went down to the kitchen, you were already dead. Just a glowing television and the ghost of things unsaid.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about this because the album sequence is such like an art form in itself, and it's always such a process every time we make an album. And I actually we never go with my sequence because I don't think I'm very good at it. But yeah, priority is, someone told us that's the longest Bad I Hat song that there is. And I think that it kind of makes sense because that song is the first song I've written about the death of my dad, who passed away when I was 16. And so, yeah, so it is sort of like a heavier subject matter and like a more thoughtful song in that way. So it felt fitting to kind of like linger in that song. We were going to fade it out originally, but I think we just decided to let it go and let the full performance that we had done. We did that performance live in the studio together, and just sort of like let that finish up and feel the whole thing and sort of have a moment to kind of like reflect. And yeah, it just made sense in the sequence to finish side A with it when we were putting it all together. It's like, yeah, it seems nice. And then flipping the record and quarter passing like a respectful song to come after it too. So yeah, it worked out.
So it's nice that you think in terms of A and B sides.
Yes. Yeah, we try to. We always do, even though like when we were making Psychic Reader, I think it wasn't clear yet that vinyl would have like the resurgence it's had. Right. But I feel like I always think about that.
Do you have records yourself?
Yes, I do actually. I was listening to some today. We because when we played we did the in-store at the record store. They gave us gift cards so we could do some shopping.
Nice.
I got this record called Bach is Beautiful, and it's just two classical guitar players playing Bach songs. So that was really nice to do on this rainy day.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's good rainy day music. Absolutely. Yeah. So are you going on? Are you able to tour? Or I don't know what the situation is. And
yes, we are going to go on tour. We're leaving. We actually have a few shows later this week, and then starting like mid-October, we're going to do a few weeks out. But yeah, all of our shows are going to be vaccine required or a negative test required and mask required, because that's what we needed to feel like it would be a safe environment for ourselves and our fans. I mean, it's still like always a risk just to be in a group of people like that. But we felt like if the venues are doing their part and they're really serious about keeping shows safe, it's like we want to bring the shows to those venues. Sure. And see the fans. So so we're hoping
to
kind
of limit your ability to interact with the fans after the show or before the show.
Yeah, we've been thinking about that, because that's actually one of my favorite parts of the shows is getting to say hi to everyone after the show. But we're going to be masked up, and probably we're going to have to tell people no photos. We might say you can take a picture of us like we're a landmark,
Right. Right.
But we won't stand next to you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, you got to be careful. It's strange times. And are you thinking about, I mean, you've done the one show where you did like 6/10 of the album, but so now how are you thinking about presenting a full show with this record?
Yeah, we're thinking I think we're gonna play all 10 songs. We have arrangements for all of them. I think we need like one more rehearsal for a few of them, but I think we'll have it by tour time. So yeah, that's always fun to do. We figure like right when the album comes out is the time to like play all the songs and see what people respond to. And at that point, then you can kind of like tailor it and see what people actually want to hear. But yeah, now's the time to play it through. So we're excited.
Now is the time. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So, and I assume that the reaction was pretty good at the show that you did on the tape. So yeah, it was great. And because it was like a really intimate crowd, and the environment was just like real cozy and open. So I could kind of like between songs kind of give some context for the songs and tell some stories. And so that was nice. Right. So are you thinking ahead to the next one yet? Oh yeah. I feel like we've always been like, we've always been ones to like, we're like constantly writing songs. I'm like constantly writing songs, and I always have like voice memos on my phone, but it always works out with tour and stuff that you can't get into the studio, or it just always takes forever. So we've been on like an every 3 years album cycle. Right. Because of the pandemic, because we've been here and we've been working on a Patreon where every month we record a new song. And because of that, it's been like very fruitful creatively, that I think we have a head start. So I'm hoping we get another album out in less than 3 years. That's my goal.
because we've always had the song, so there's no reason we can't do it. We just got to get it done.
Right. And do you feel like the band sound is changing or evolving as these albums move along? Do you think?
Yeah, I was like, it's funny, like now, like because we're about to hit like 10 years of being a band. Now
right.
It's like we're getting to the point where we can really kind of like look back and consider our own discography kind of like from a distance.
Right.
And yeah, I always think of Psychic. Well, like It Hurts. That was like a real like tail end of the 2000s, like folksy indie thing.
Yep.
And then Psychic Reader's got this like, that's like the scrappiest one. That one sounds like, scrappy basement indie thing. Every song on that album sounds so fast to me now. I'm like we can't even keep up with these songs. And then Lightning Round is sort of like the like mellow but like dramatic studio project. And now Walkman feels like our like, that's the one I went into the studio saying I want to write a true like indie rock record.
Cool.
So we'll see how that one feels. But now the songs we're writing now, they feel like similar, but like maybe like a little like more dancey than Walkman. There's like more like samples and like drum machines.
Okay.
That's like kind of, I don't know, that's what's bubbling up now. I don't know what's going on. Where we just feel like dancing, I guess.
Well, yeah, because we've all been sitting around
in
isolation.
Exactly.
We're kind of in isolation here. We're just kind of getting out of it again because we were.
Yes.
And so hopefully we'll be able to have international artists come. You can come and do a double bill with the Beths.
We would love to. I hope that happens, honestly.
Are you still in contact with them at all?
Yes, I talked on the phone with Liz early in the pandemic, and that was nice to talk to her. And because it's hard to. I mean, I always think of it's like you meet bands along the way, and it's a weird job to have, but like those are my coworkers, and
Right.
like I miss being at the water cooler with all of them, at the shows and
Yep.
talking. And so it was really nice to talk to Liz and some of my other musician friends and just be like, how are you guys dealing with everything, and how are you doing? And so that was really nice. And then they also have a Patreon, so we've been following them on Patreon and seeing what they're up to. That's nice.
Very, very good. Well, it's very nice to talk to you. So
it's great to talk to you. Thank you so much
for spending time with me. So hopefully the
pleasure.
album does everything you do, and maybe you can come down here at some point.
We'd love to. I hope we
out
see
a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be great. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. All right. See you. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.